veins that flow down their backs like tresses of mud in this particular case. But they're still not being cooperative. Every time I find a gap, they move out of it. Oh, it looked like a young male to me that was closest to us, and then a little one, and then an older adult female. She's at least not too camera shy. The impalas are bursting at the seams, so to speak, so we could well be seeing our first live impala birth. I'm determined at least this afternoon to locate one of their young ones. And speaking of pregnant creatures, she actually looks quite round to me. Not hugely so. There's definitely a little bit of a bulge to her belly. Now, warthogs don't have a strict breeding season, but you will find that there's a peak of birth around this time of year, once there's enough rain to get the mother plenty of food in the form of fresh green plant material. I think let us leave our warthogs to their feeding, their afternoon feeding, and go see if we can find one of these famed or fabled baby impala. You can hear the wind howling. It is taking the edge off what is otherwise a bitingly hot day. Makes a very big change from the last few days of overcast, cloudy and windy. It's now bright, sunny and windy. Let's find our way back onto the road. I don't want to drive off on this patch of grass too much. Here's our warthog. Okay, whilst I circuit these warthogs to find the baby impala, I believe that Brent has some fresh leopard tracks to show you, so let's head across to him and see if you can find that spotted cat.
Welcome to the sunset safari, the walking safari. As you can see, we've got some leopard tracks here. For those of you watching the sunrise safari, we had Shadow in this area, and she's obviously moved during the day. So Jeandre and I are going to try follow them. My name is Brent Leo Smith, and we're tracking big cats on foot. So we're going to get going. We're going to be a bit quieter here. So we're going to go through the bush. We updated on our tracking, and I'm going to go.
Continuing my search for this little weeny baby impala. Obviously, I don't want to go off-roading and stress out a newborn on spindly legs. I just want to try and get a nice view of the herd. I can see some very pregnant females tucked away in there, but so far no sign of the little one. For the first few days of their lives, baby impala are definitely at their most vulnerable and are consequently quite skittish. Hello impala, are you hiding a baby somewhere here? Although they're more than capable of running pretty much as soon as they're born, they're not really as coordinated as the adults or as stable on their feet. Sure, I wonder what that wind is blowing in. It's come out of nowhere. Actually, I have my suspicions as to what that is. Hello, little impala, or some big ladies. Some very round, very bulging bellies there. No sign of a baby though, unless I'm being very blind. Keep your eyes peeled. You're essentially just looking for little flashes of black and maybe the odd ear twitch or tail twitch in between a forest of legs. What has been really interesting to witness is we've almost had a return to the harem structure of the breeding season. Usually with these herds, it has been very mixed. Oh, sorry, I was not paying attention, but that's actually what that wind is blowing in. Almost looks, unless I'm very much imagining things, like a storm front. But yes, it looks like a harem, or we've seen a return to the harem system with one male pretty much in charge of the rest of the herd. And I think this is coming from the hormones that are flowing through the females at the moment. And I think it's causing a bit of confusion with the males. We've seen them fighting with each other, rutting, and also chasing a lot of the very pregnant females around. And I do think that's just hormone based. The impala are moving into the thick bush. I think I'm going to leave them alone. I would feel terribly guilty forcing these pregnant moms to have to run away from us. So let's leave them be. I'm not going to try and follow them in. Let's go off and search what other wondrous things we can find. Maybe we'll find a different impala herd somewhere. Goodbye, ladies. Good luck. We've also mentioned that once one lamb is born, the rest of them tend to follow very quickly. It's usually, I would say, about 80% of them are born within 3 days of each other, with the stragglers on either end, meaning that this whole process is going to last for quite a while over the next few days, so we'll have plenty to keep an eye out for. Oh, sorry, Morty, hello. You come back. Girl. Alright. Since you're kindly standing there so photogenically on the green grass, I'm not going to drive forward and... Oh, cute! Little baby lapwings! Sorry, I've just spotted them next to their parents. Oh, those are the cutest little things. It is the season of babies.
I can't see them.
You can't see them. There you go. There's one that's just going to pop. There you go. It is so incredibly disproportionate. A little baby crowned lapwing with an absolutely enormous head that looks utterly ridiculous. Oh, there's two of them actually with their parents. That explains why Mom and Dad have been shrieking at me from the moment I arrived here. Did wonder what they were going on about. I thought maybe they just had a nest, but in fact they've got two very disproportionate but completely upright babies. And just like the babies of the impala, these are born precocial, which means pretty much from the moment they hatch. They are fully functional. They're not born without feathers in the same way the nesting birds are in trees, like doves maybe, or shrikes, or even those lilac-breasted rollers that Scott's been showing us. These are born fully able to run and keep up with their parents, and covered with, although a fluffy covering, they're still covered with feathers. They look so ridiculously disproportionate. That head looks enormous compared to the body. Oh, so cute. Barely have spotted them running around on that field. I've very, very vivid experiences with crowned lapwings. That's the drone buzzing above us, by the way. Just in case you've picked up on that audio. I've got very vivid experiences of crowned lapwings as a child as you walked over the school field, because they love to nest in open areas like this. I've been picked a couple of times by very brave parents who come across and dive bomb you. And then I've even been left with a bleeding scalp once from a parent that was dive bombing me to protect babies. And they'll do it to any of the other animals out here as well if they feel like they pose any kind of risk to their nests. Well, bye-bye, little lapwings. Good luck and all the best. Go. You can see this beautifully open area as we drive away along Impala Plains. Whoop, and I nearly drove into a thorn tree because I was busy watching the drone, but that's okay. Notice how green everything is looking. It's incredible. As you zoom back down onto the ground, we'll continue on our perusal of the western edge of Djuma and see what we can find you. My plan is to slowly amble my way across to Buffelshoek, but I wanted to just check this area first, just to make sure that Shadow didn't do a big loop and change direction. She's right sort of on the boundary of her territory, so it might be that she decides to head back across to where she came from, which is Arathusa off to the west of us. I just want to check. Amazing. It feels as though the temperature's already dropped 5 degrees the minute the sun disappeared behind this bank of clouds. And I guess our cold fronts, we're not quite over. Something's blowing in from the west. Look as though shadows come across in this direction. I hope you're all paying very close attention to what is happening on your screen. Otherwise you might miss the odd cameo appearance. Just want to go back and check that herd of impala. To be the summer of, well, the month of babies. The impalas apparently were absolutely adorable. I'll have to take your word for that. In fact, I don't want to know how cute the baby impalas are until I've seen one. But those lapwings were absolutely adorable. The reason I'm doing this game drive now in reverse is I saw more impala, and I've now reached the point of being absolutely determined. Brian, we are not going home until we see baby impala.
Copy.
No man, now I'm just seeing things. Okay, we go forwards again. Yes, Pamela, something that I have seen in terms of babies is baby elephants. We had 2 of them yesterday, giving a perfect demonstration as to exactly how uncoordinated baby elephants are with their trunks. We also spent the rest, Liam and I spent a good, I don't know, probably about a good 20 minutes trying to leave that elephant sighting, and we couldn't leave because there were just elephants everywhere, all around us, all in the road. So we have seen baby elephants. I don't understand how I've seen more baby elephants than I have baby impala, but it seems to be the way it goes. And of course, apparently, I can't remember if it was today or yesterday, but a year ago exactly, that Liam recorded the first, was it the first live birth, Brian, of a wildebeest calf?
Yep.
So the wildebeest are going to start to pop out. Now I believe that Bushwhoop has stuff to show you, so let's head across there.
So I'm going to start off here.
Yeah. This is what it's all about, tracking big cats. Jandra and I followed the tracks for about 100 meters. And we found her. She's just walking away there, Jandre. We're going to try call the game drives in now. She's still quite relaxed. So she's moving from the termite mound. So this is it. Tracking left and nothing better. I'm going to call Jamie. She's the closest car. Jamie come in.
Standing by.
Jamie, we've located Shadow. If you come back towards the junction of Impala Plains and Sandy Patch, or Impala Road Sandy Patch, she's standing by there. So what we're going to do now is we know where we're going to move out. We don't want to disturb, and we're going to wait for Jamie so we can tell Jamie how to get in there. So she's moving off slowly. A bush we did this morning, which is incredible. All the little things. So this afternoon we decided, we knew there were leopards. We decided my favorite things to do. Aubrey's in the area. He's also getting hold of me on the radio. So we'll wait here. Jamie can see us. But isn't this a great way to start the sunset? So Jamie, while she's here, we're going to go meet her on the road.
How amazing is that? But Brent managed to find Shadow pretty much as soon as he started tracking her this afternoon. And we are making our way back towards that sighting. The wind is now howling again. We've been pretty much hanging around this open area. There's our warthogs again. As we zoom past, sorry warties, we'll have to slow down. I'm not going to go racing in and scare them, not when they've been so quiet and calm about cars coming through. All right, little one. Okay, big girl. There is Brent, ready to lead us into the sighting. Let's see what Brent has to tell us. They have been very productive. Hello.
Hello, hello.
You find her?
We did. Very exciting. Nothing better than tracking cats on foot. So what we're going to do, I think the best way to get you into where she was is I'm going to abandon Gendre. And I'm just going to jump on the back with you, and we'll go in, and when we get a bit closer I'll pop out and walk out and come fetch Gendre.
Alright.
Okay, so let's go see a leopard.
It's going to be fun to try and get in there.
Not too bad.
Okay.
I think we can just go in straight where Gendre was standing. Jamie nearly reversed over Gendre.
Which way from here?
Okay, so we're going to keep going straight ahead, just basically try and get through that gap that's ahead, but no, we can't go straight ahead from here.
Okay. Well, we've got Brent on the back with us to give us a hand. Oh, I've got her.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
I'm going to jump off.
Okay, bye-bye.
Maybe I shouldn't move too that far from when you saw it. Good
Cool.
luck.
Thank you.
We're going to go try track Karula next, see if we can make it 2 leopards on foot in a day.
Bye.
Bye. I had her. Oh, there she is. Oh. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop for one moment just to show you how camouflaged she is. Have you got her there, Brian? Can you see? Yeah. Just to show you how far or how incredibly camouflaged leopards can be. Keep your eyes peeled. I want to know, have you seen her? Have you spotted her yet? Oh, I know, Barbara, you were wondering if the leopard charged Brent on foot. Nope, she didn't. You'll find that leopards for the most part are quite relaxed on foot unless you surprise them at very close distance. In this case, as far as I know, she just shifted and moved away ever so slightly. No stress there. Shadow's been... Bear in mind as well that Shadow has spent her entire life encountering people who've been trying to track her on foot. So she is not without experience in that respect. Oh, getting in here is going to be so tricky. Okay, I think we can sneak in here. There's a bit of a gap. Oh, don't worry, Brian. See, I'm moving through the thick bush. She's on the move as well. She's going to head towards that termite mound. You can see how dense it is in places. She's moved towards this termite mound that the drone is directly over. She's stopped there. I'm going to try and see if I can get her in. Nope, I can't get in there without getting a little bit too close to her and upsetting her. But she's going to move around the other side of the termite mound, so keep your eyes peeled. She might be about to pop out. Seeing a leopard from the air is not particularly easy, and at the moment seeing a leopard from the ground is not particularly easy either. She's just in here. Try and approach slowly so I don't stress her. Whoop, there's a hole. Haha. Hello, beautiful. Here we go. Have managed to find our way in. Still panting in the heat of the day as she was this morning. And she's found a really nice... Now, as Brian zooms out, you can sort of see why it was that you absolutely couldn't see her from the air. She's tucked away against the side of this drainage line, this termite mound, covered in guarri bushes. And those all form a crown across her head, meaning she's completely, as her name implies, completely hidden in shadow. But you can just get something of an idea as to how incredibly dense this vegetation is. Panting heavily. I noticed this morning she's got quite a round belly. She definitely had a big meal, maybe sometime early this morning or late last night. Probably something like a steenbok or a daker, just because she has left it and she's moved across onto Djuma. She probably had a smallish kill, but something that's made her quite full. And she's now panting to try and aid digestion and cool herself down. We've been so incredibly lucky to have the sightings we have had over the last week or so, with Karula on quarantine and now her daughter paying us an unexpected visit. We've just been discussing how Shadow has appeared to be pushing back towards the western sides of her territory. I'm very glad that she's decided to make an appearance and come and join us on Juma once again. I believe it has been quite a while since we last saw her, and in that time she was a busy girl with Tingana. She was mating with him, and I don't know if that's where she's got her current limp from. She is limping. Her back right leg is injured. Nothing too serious, so it could have been something that happened during her experience with mating. I'm not too sure. It's hard to tell. It's supposition. Could also, of course, have been an injury acquired during hunting. I was asked today by one of the school kids about how many spots a leopard has, and it's something I've never ever stopped to try and work out, and I'm certainly not going to try and sit and count them now. Oh, big girl, big yawn. I'm tired, girl. And I don't know if any of you have ever found yourselves with an idle moment and a screenshot of a leopard or two. And if you find yourself curiously counting spots, well, I would love to know if you've ever done that. And if you have, what were the end results? I estimated about 300, but that was a very, very quick estimate. And looking at her now, I think I might have been off the mark by a long way. I suppose it's also tricky to decide what exactly you count as one spot and two. I don't know if we count the rosettes as one entire spot. And whilst you ponder that question, bear with me a moment. I'm just going to lead Aubrey into the sighting. Just standing by. I can't copy you, but if you go along towards the Impala Plains junction on Vuyatela access, but then you'll see my tracks going off onto the right, so towards the sort of northern side of Vuyatela. You should see my off-road tracks there. Just keep coming, I'll let you know if I've got your audio. She's panting away. I don't know, do we have any answers to the spot questions? Have any of you ever sat down and counted? I'd love to be able to send an email to the school kids and just say this is our conclusion. She's up. Sorry, Julia, I said back left. I think it's her front. I said her back right. I think it's her front right. Just watching her walk now. And apparently James picked up on it and said it was injured. Just trying to see as she moves from us if I can catch a glimpse of any kind of injury. I can't. It looks to me like it's her front leg. Oh, where's she going to go? It's a very difficult area here. I'm going to try and loop my way around. She's going to stop there. Sorry, Brian. Everybody watch your heads. I think we should be okay. We should get her here. Sorry, girl. I know you're busy having to relieve yourself of nature's burdens, but we'll just give you the space to do that for now. I know that you have, oh, that's quite smelly, Shadow. Thank you for that. Your parting gift to us. I do need some time to just loop around and get across to her, and I believe that Scott has a dung beetle to show you for now. So whilst I go and find you a nice view and help Aubrey into the sighting, let's head across to Scott.
Exciting stuff with Jamie and Shadow, but also exciting stuff here. We've got some lucky dung beetles that have found this fresh pile of elephant dung. Here's another one, and they have the ability to fly, these beetles. They lift up that hard shell on their back, and soft wings open up that transport them from A to B, so they do have the ability to fly around looking for various types of dung. Elephant dung, especially when it's fresh like this, is high up on the menu of dung beetles, and you can see the one on the top there is attempting to roll it into a tight ball. Now, it's not looking very neat at the moment, but you'll be incredibly surprised at the skill of these beetles. Oh, there's two fighting over a small little, and that one's taking it, doing a runner. Off it goes. Seems like it's coming straight back though. It will probably need to get some more dung than that, but you do get lots of different types of dung beetles, so maybe this is a slightly smaller one. It does look a bit smaller, and a slightly different species that may not require as much, but now the other two are wrestling. It seems like one of them is a bit of a bully and is trying to take the easy route, getting another dung beetle to do all the hard work, but it appears that now, oh no, it's found the other one. What's going to happen here? The other one's standing its ground, even though it's smaller. And who would have thought you'd have so much action unfolding all around a big fresh pile of elephant dung? And interestingly enough, there are a few more balls of elephant dung just behind us, which we can take you past quickly, just to give you an idea of the full scene here. So that one would have been the freshest, and the elephants were walking, judging by their tracks, from down that road towards where we are, and you can see there's a whole trail of dung, each of which has some dung beetles. Oh, there looks like one going down the road there, Vian, with quite a big ball. You're going straight for it. That's perfect. There we go. They're incredibly powerful animals, these. And as much fun as this is, Jamie is back in position to receive you with Shadow. Enjoy.
Now we are still with Shadow. I've been desperately trying to see if I can see where this injury is on her leg, or what part of it is hurting her. It does seem to be her right front to me. Stop there. Trying to peer at her through the bushes. There is a chance that if she continues up a little bit further, we are going to lose her in the drainage line. I'm going to try and stay with her for now. Oh my word, logs everywhere. Through here. Oh my word. Definitely logs everywhere, and a distinct feeling like the ground should not be this sandy. I'm just going to stop for a moment so I don't stress her out, let her decide where she wants to go. Try and find my binoculars at the same time so that I can have a look at that injury on her leg. Still can't see anything. I'm not sure if you guys can, or if you can pinpoint where it is exactly, if it is an open wound. If not, it might be a sore ankle or a sore joint. I'm hoping she's going to head towards that big large pod albizia. that she's just at the base of at the moment. Tree without thorns, and therefore a perfect leopard tree on our beautiful evening. Interestingly, we've been seeing Karula do this more and more, and Shadow's doing it too. While she's been moving through, she's been stopping to spray urine and to mark her territory. And I think she's just reaffirming her eastern boundary, reminding her mother of exactly where she draws the line. Or possibly in response to Karula's reminder as to where the line is drawn. Are we going to make it? Yes, we are. Now, adrenaline rush. You were wondering about Shadow's spot pattern. She has a 3-4 spot pattern. Oh my word. This could definitely end badly for us. It's either going to end in a flat tire or a vehicle in the hole. We might have to squeeze through here. Sorry, guys. You're right there, Brian. It just keeps getting thicker and thicker. And Paul Rizzo, apparently you have looked it up on Google, and leopards have approximately 1,000 spots. Well, I think that's pretty much, here she is. You got her there, Brian. Tucked away in the weeping wattle. Well, thank you, Paul Rizzo, for Googling how many leopard spots are there. That is a lesson learned for me. Looking at her now, I don't know why the number 300 ever popped into my head, because it's quite clearly more than that. It's very convenient of her to lie down in the weeping wattle. I think she's found a perfect position. I don't think she's going to stay flat here though. I think she's going to keep moving. She's just resting up every now and again. I could be wrong though. I think she's on a mission. Yep. Oh, nope, just shifting around. That looks like such a comfortable, perfect hiding. We've been treated to some serious spectacles of leopards mating. And you've been watching it. Pittsburgh, how it is that so many mating sessions, or how can leopards mate as often deliberate attempt before conception occurs. It can actually take several depending on the person's health, fertility, and the same will go for leopards as well. The leopards mate as many times as they do for a couple of reasons, one of which is it takes the female a while to ovulate, so the strongest possible male available to them. Seen Shadow mating twice now, and by mating I a week-long session. We've seen that happen twice over the last 2 months, and the same goes for Karula, also over the last 2 months. Why it is that they haven't conceived, I don't know. I know that several people have thrown aspersions as to Tingana's fertility, so the male that they were mating with. I'm not sure if that's fair. To double check into be as fertile as they were when they were younger. Never fear, I'm sure there are going to be babies on the way in the next few months, and lucky for us we don't have time limits on our safaris, so we'll be able to follow them and find out when they do actually give birth. Now, for the moment, Shadow is not going anywhere, but Brent has found a mystery animal that I have yet to be convinced exists. Let's head across to him and his aardvark hole.
Has been flung out of here, and it's something that can dig really well. Re-excavated the mud in that after this has been flooded during the rain, and guess what? They're at home. So guys, you got them there, Jandre? So there's an aardvark in this burrow, and the reason I can tell that is because of these specific flies. So those who are on the sunrise bushwalk with me, I spoke about fly species that they're not sure whether they feed off the sweat or the blood of an aardvark. And if an aardvark is at home, they are always inside at the entrance. And the reason for that is so the aardvark can't leave without the flies being attached to them. So they literally are followed by a swarm of these flies at all times. It must be quite uncomfortable, especially if they are blood drinkers. And I'm really interested to find out whether they drink blood or sweat. So there's this ongoing study about that. Oh, hello. There's a little rattling testicular calling right next to us, but I can't really see him. He's in this spike thorn, and he's very loud. Kiss, kiss, run away. So if we look down below us here, the vehicles left Karula around that big marula tree in the distance, and she went into this drainage system. So what we're hoping is we're going to find some fresh tracks, and we're going to go into the drainage line, and while we go look for Karula, we're going to send you back to her daughter, Shadow.
Whilst they go off in search of Karula, we sit with her very exhausted daughter, Shadow, who, as I said, has been moving along and marking her boundaries in exactly the same way her mother has been. And it would be interesting to see how the situation plays out if mother and daughter both go into estrus at the same time, which is distinctly possible. And then, who do we think Tingana would choose? Because he'd have to choose one of them. Of course, Shadow always has the option of the Anderson male, who is off to the west, but he hasn't been seen all that often. And of course, and Karula has a ruler off to the east of her territory, so that's also a distinctive possibility. But generally, it seems to be Tingana who's spent the most time with both mother and daughter. It would be interesting to see how that situation plays out. But for now, there's a lot of reinforcing of boundaries happening. Karula, apart from the time that Karula's been eating her impala on quarantine, the last few times that I've been with her whilst she's been moving, she's been marking territory. And Shadow's been exactly the same. That being said, I think I was wrong when I said I didn't think that she was going to stay here long. I retract that. I think she's going to spend the rest of the afternoon sleeping quite peacefully, cradled in a weeping wattle tree, which looks incredibly comfortable. But that's okay with me, because if she continues any further into the block, it actually gets to the point of being too thick. And at the moment, I'm not entirely sure which way is out. So I'm more than happy to spend some time and just sit with her for now. One thing we may do is, I'm not sure if Aubrey and his guests have actually managed to see her. So at some point we may have to move over so that they can have the position we're in, which I think is probably the best place to sit and watch her. Whilst a shadow slumbers quietly on, the drone is up in the sky above an elephant herd. So let's go up there.
Filmed by Drone Commander Andrew Francis. Where they are on the reserve, I'm not entirely sure at the moment, but what a wonderful sight of the matriarch it looks like in front there, two youngsters, and then the slightly older teenager bringing up the rear. They're on Philemon's cut line, I can see that now, so just to the south of the reserve, and it's quite a small herd. I'm slightly surprised by the size of it, to be honest. This time of year we haven't seen much in the way of water other than in the major water holes, and so for the herds to be dispersed already is unusual. Perhaps a big elephant bull in must, there have been a few of them around, came into the major herd and split them up. They certainly will, that will happen. None of those youngsters and all the big matriarch will want to be around a big bull in must at the moment. So they're just kind of fossicking away through the bush there, and she's looking after three. I doubt they're all hers. Probably the oldest and the youngest will be that cow's, and then perhaps the other one, a kind of, not an orphan, but certainly a hanger-on. Perhaps the kids are on a play date this afternoon. I think elephants, very much like human beings, do tend to, they tend to behave in many respects like human beings do. And instead of shielding the youngsters, they're starting to look for things to eat. Just an incredible view, that, of the Lowveld. And we've spoken a lot about the rain and how green it's made things, but you can see from the air that while it is very green when we're driving around, from the air the sand is still exposed. There still needs to be a lot of growth for the grass before the ground goes green. And now let's go back to Jamie and the magnificent shadow and check up on her and her injuries. See you just now.
The leopard is still very much fast asleep, pretty much in exactly the same position as when you left. In fact, exactly the same position as when you left, tucked away in the shade of the weeping wattle. It does look very comfortable though, the way that she's positioned in there. I wish she made herself a little bit more out in the open so that we could have a look for that injury. As I said, it could be something from mating with Tingana. It could also be from whatever she hunted last night. Either way, I couldn't see anything obvious, but it could be an injury to her tendons or a twisted ankle. Hard to tell. Doesn't look too serious. We've seen how quickly and rapidly these animals do heal. Sorry guys, I'm just listening to the Game Drive channel for a moment. Okay, no major updates. It's just that Andrew wants to try and find his way in here and best of luck to him, because I'm not entirely sure exactly where we are in relation to anywhere else. I think we might actually be quite close to Sandy Patch Road, but I could be wrong on that account. This is a block that I've spent very little time in, so I'm glad that Shadow decided to come off in this direction. Led me to parts of the reserve that are yet unexplored on my side. Of course, definitely areas that she's more than familiar with. And as Shadow rests in the shade from a very hot day, let us head back and see what Scott is seeing at the waterhole around Arethusa.
So this is a Wahlberg's eagle soaring through the sky, and seeing as though you have just been up in a drone looking at some elephants, we thought we'd give you an alternative view from the ground looking up. And you'll notice it's hardly had to flap its wings, not even once. It's just riding the warm thermals and wind that's getting blown in from what looks to be quite a big storm behind us. What I can do is I can turn the vehicle around for you now, just to show you a quick look at the storm that I'm talking about. I think we should make it to the end of the safari without getting wet, but there's some beautiful clouds approaching from the west. It's not the main area where bad weather does come from, but occasionally some storms do roll in from the Drakensberg Mountains out in that direction. Vima and myself have been enjoying driving around Arethusa, but haven't seen too much. So we're going to keep on moving and see what else we can find. And that's how it goes sometimes on safari. Luckily, it sounds like Brent and Jamie are doing a great job finding you some interesting things to look at. And that's what I love about Safari Live. You guys have the benefits of chopping and changing to wherever the action is. Some birds have just flown across here. I don't think we've ever showed them to you on Safari Live. They don't belong here, and they came from India, and they're a myna bird, M-Y-N-A-H, and there's a pair of them living here at Arethusa. They usually live in urban areas, so not too sure why these two have gone against all their regular traits and come out to live in the bush. But two birds that you typically don't see here, and they are an invasive species, but because they have been here for so long, I think they are kind of considered locals now, which is not ideal. And just to let you know, at least it's possibly another bird for your bird list, but important to remember that it does not really belong in Africa. The Indian myna. I think they've changed the name to something else now, but hard to keep track of all the name changes. If any of you may know what the new name is for the Indian myna, it would be wonderful for you to share that with us, just so we can clear that up. In the city where I live, called Durban, they plague trees and houses there. And these are two far more African birds, the helmeted guinea fowl. And these two have paired off. It's time to start thinking about raising a family this season. Usually they'll be living in flocks of varying sizes, but possibly 10 to 20 birds in total. But now we will only ever see them in pairs, and they'll in all likelihood, oh, there goes a squirrel, they'll in all likelihood have a nest somewhere, tucked away in the grass, on the ground, well concealed though, and hopefully sooner rather than later they'll have some hatchlings and we'll get to see them because they're incredibly cute, the youngsters of most animals, I guess, but the chicken-like birds, the guinea fowls and the francolins, are really cryptically marked and camouflaged. They lack the ability to fly, and because as they hatch they need to start moving with their parents literally from day one. They don't spend any time in a nest. They need to be very well camouflaged. In case of danger they can just lie on the ground and keep dead still. That's their kind of go-to move. Great. Which has just reminded me, actually, I think we need to pop in at the Laughing Dove nest this afternoon to check out what's going on there. There was 2 eggs last time we were there to check that out, and I've got a feeling that they may well have hatched. We've been viewing that nest for close to a week now, and often incubation periods aren't too much longer than 10 to 14 days for the smaller birds. So it would be wonderful to try and monitor that nest as soon as those little chicks hatch. And the great thing is it's kind of eye level with us, so it's not very high up in a tree, and we'll be able to look down onto the nest, which is a unique scenario that I think is certainly worth us making the most of. To Paul, who's just sent through some information on the Indian miners, saying that they're incredibly intelligent birds. And you're right, Paul, they are. I can vouch for that. Very sneaky, and any plans you may make to kind of prevent them from nesting in your roof, because they make such a mess, they often find a way in or find a way around your defense mechanisms. I guess that's why they've been able to prosper so well in this country that is foreign to them. Of those Indian miners are bright blue. They're actually incredibly pretty eggs, unlike the eggs of the Laughing Dove, which we will hopefully be looking at later, which are pearly white. Interestingly, quite a few birds' eggs are bright blue in coloration. Oh, this is something quite interesting. Now, I know Brent found large amounts of insects on this morning's bushwalk, and possibly some more will be found this afternoon. And I've just found an egg case for one insect that I knew one of you asked Brent whether we find them here or not. And this is a remarkable insect called a lunar moth. And this is the egg case, or ootheca, that they'll pop out of. And I know for a fact that it is the lunar moth because it nests or it feeds on typically tambuti trees, or almost strictly tambuti trees. And this is a tambuti tree, so a perfect place for a lunar moth to lay its egg case. And here's the tambuti grove that it's nestled in. It's kind of got a metallic silvery sheen to it, that egg case, with lots of pitted holes, and that, coupled with the fact that it is on a tambuti tree, makes me know for a fact that the insect responsible for it was a beautiful big green moth called a lunar moth. And for those of you who don't know what they look like, I can try and get a picture for you quickly as I drive along. Probably be more wise those if I try and find this picture for you, and I'll show it to you a bit later, but it's an incredibly large moth, probably about that big, and it's called a lunar moth, part of the emperor moth family. And we've just found another bird's nest. Yibble! It's in this tree just to our right here. I've seen the adult fly in and I heard the chicks cheeping wildly for it as it landed in here. It's a long-tailed shrike, and we haven't found one of their nests yet this season. Yay! Huh. Now, the problem is, well, that's the adult, beautiful bird with that long black tail. Now, will we be able to see its nest from where you are? I can see a large clump of twigs, but I'm not sure if from VM's angle he can see them. There you can kind of see the fringe of them. I'm going to try and reverse ever so slightly to get you a better gap. You can kind of make out a big clump of twigs in there. That's probably as good as it's going to get. That's the nest. Unfortunately, we are going to battle to get a good view of what's going on inside there. But it's another nest, and at least we know where they are. The chicks could be very small, or still possibly even only be eggs in there. Anyway, Brent is desperate for you guys to join him on the bushwalk. Enjoy it.
So, not quite the leopard we're looking for, but a leopard nonetheless. We have a leopard orchid growing in this retired, what looks to be a black monkey thorn. It hasn't started flowering yet, and the reason it gets its name, a leopard orchid, it's got beautiful golden flowers with dark red, very similar to leopard. And they're really interesting because they're an epiphyte, and what that means is they take their nutrients from the air. So they are not a parasite, so they don't harm any of the trees that they live in, and that enables them to live on dead trees, like dead leadwoods, or like this dead monkey thorn. They are incredibly beautiful and green throughout the year, so we still get this sort of splurge of green in the middle of winter from these leopard orchids. This is a medium-sized one. They can get really, really big. But I'm hoping one day we will find, I've seen it once before in my time in the bush, and I found a leopard lying on top of a leopard orchid. So not something you see too often, and hopefully we'll be able to show you that one day on one of the live drives. So while we're going to leave the leopard orchid and continue to look for Karula, we're going to go back to her daughter again, who's a flat cat.
Sounds like you've been having an amazing time with bushwalk and with Scott. Shadow still, I don't actually think she's moved at all since you left. She's busy relaxing and resting. She's definitely found a nice, comfortable, shady patch to spend the rest of her day, curled up in the shade. I know that Scott mentioned there was a bank of clouds that's moving in. It's slowly making its way towards us, but it's not happening all that quickly. We've still got the sun beating down upon us. It is very, very dense in this sighting, and there are now quite a few cars that are trying to come across to join us, so we may have to move around a little bit. We might not have visual of her for too long. I just want to have a quick chat to Andrew while we have a look at Shadow. Alright, I'm just waiting for Andrew to finish off on the Game Drive channel. I'm going to tell her where she is. How's it, guys?
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, Jamie.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good. She's on the other side under the weeping waffle. Yeah, Yeah, I think Aubrey managed to find a way around there. Andrew, if you can't see from that side, you must just let me know.
Alright.
Because I've got an okay visual here.
I'll try from the other side.
Cool, alright.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's flying down.
Now, it is a very tricky sighting to navigate around in. And I think especially if your vehicle is twice the size of ours or twice the length, you saw us ducking and diving around as we followed Shadow in. A bit more tricky if you are twice our length, and that's what Andrew is having to contend with at the moment. And he does have Ilka on the back. I met her this morning. She is one of our Safari Live fans. We did have a very quick, very brief conversation during a sighting with Karula early this morning. And it is so wonderful to have viewers who've been watching it to then be able to come and share the experience and meet their characters up close and personal. In this case, they're going to have a very sleepy Shadow experience. She's obviously now finished mating with Tingana. It would be interesting to know, I haven't heard any reports of it, but it would be interesting to know whether she did mate with the Anderson male as well. I know that she did the first time she was seen mating with Tingana. She left him and she went mating with the Anderson male. I wonder whether that process has repeated itself. Of course, female leopards do that as a way of ensuring the safety of their cubs, essentially convincing every male in their immediate area that they are the father, and therefore ensuring that they don't act in any way to kill the cubs. Kevin, you were wondering, we spoke about Shadow's unique spot patterns, and of course every leopard has its own unique spot pattern that is different with each and every individual, just like zebra. You were wondering if spot patterns are inherited. Not to the best of my knowledge, but that being said, I think that maybe certain dark types of spot, maybe a leopard has a particularly dark chest, something like that I suppose could be inherited. Either way, we know that each and every leopard has an individual spot pattern that is completely unique and different from its mother and its father. Now, Shadow is still fast asleep underneath her weeping wattle, and Brent has some more amazing bugs to show you. So let's head across to him.
So it looks like we're destined to spend time around weeping wattles or pultiforums today. And you can just see the air is abuzz with insects feeding on the flowers. And all those buzzing are the burnets and foresters. So we've got both species of daylight moths buzzing about. And we had a really, really wonderful look at the burnet this morning. And now I'm going to try show you the forester, which is the gold. Oh, it took off. There are quite a lot, so we'll find another one, I'm sure. And while I look for another one, we've got some of those beautiful fruit chafers again. Oh, taking off everywhere. There's some mating fruit chafers. And you can see the iridescence coming off their carapaces. It's absolutely stunning. There's just this incredible explosion of color coming from these weeping wattles at the moment that have got all the flowers out. The yellow of the flower, the green of the tree, and this incredible vast coloration of different insects. I mean, look at this fruit chafer here. If I remember correctly, I think that's called a harlequin fruit chafer, the black and white one. And we will definitely try get you one of those foresters, those daylight moths, not the burnets. We will show you the burnet again, of course. Let's have a look. I think I spot one, John. It might be a bit easier if we sneak a little bit around the bush. I mean, not stalking leopards now, so we don't have to be quite as sneaky or quiet. Whoa. And lots of mating beetles around. You know, they've got a whole bunch of food, and so it's time to make some babies. Oh, we've even got mating foresters, Jeandre. So forester is the daylight moth I haven't been able to show you just yet. And there are there's a pair coupled inside the bush here. I don't want to disturb them. Can you get there? There they are. And you can see that gold, sort of yellow spots with that royal blue coloring in the wings. So that's the other daylight moth. Oh, the wind's blowing. Maybe if oh, don't fly away. I'll try to get them into some of that light so you can see the colors. How's that, Jeandre? There we go. It's quite windy. It's gusting quite heavily, so getting insects is a real challenge. Isn't that beautiful? Absolutely beautiful. Nature has the most exquisite pigments. Okay, let's see what else. I also saw some really big wasps. Oh, and it even looks like there might be an acrea butterfly coming in. Let's go have a look. So that's the one thing, you could probably spend 3 hours at one of these flowering trees and still not get through all the haws and insects that are here. But let's try to find another one we haven't seen yet. Oh, there we go. Oh, there's a very... Oh. So obviously when approaching all the beetles, oh, as you say that, one flew into my ear. I think he got away. Is it there? No, I think he's gone. We're going to wait right here. There's a really, really cool butterfly, but it's quite a difficult one to get. I'm going to wait for him to land. I'm watching it carefully. It's called a skipper. Oh, but then in the meantime, there's one of those big wasps. And Richard's asking, are we getting bitten by any of these bugs? Not yet, Richard. They're far more interested in the... Oh, he took off. That's the one that might not bite us, but definitely sting us. Jeandre is going for another bonnet while we try to find some new species. So most of these are far more concerned with feeding on the nectar of this beautiful weeping wattle. There's the butterfly, Jeandre. Oh, he's so quick. That's why he's called a skipper. He skips from spot to spot. Not so not slow flying like these bonnets and foresters, but hopefully he will jump down. I don't know if you're going to be able to grab here. Sorry, I'm putting Jeandre under the cosh here. But there, that is not the skipper. That's a different butterfly, and that is an acrea. And we spoke about them a bit on the sunrise safari. They lay their eggs on a Wildtharia plant, a Wildtharia indica, and their larval stage sequests poison from that plant, and they take that poison through into adulthood, which makes them noxious to birds, and so they're very bad tasting and actually quite poisonous to the birds. They have a hydrogen cyanide. If I remember correctly, it's quite difficult, it's quite far. I'm going to have a look with my binos, but it looks like that is a little acrea, and they are absolutely wonderful. I really do enjoy the acrea family of butterflies. My favorite acrea, which I haven't seen yet this year, has got the most wonderful name. It's not the prettiest of the acrea butterflies, but the name is what makes it for me. It's called a wandering donkey. And I just think a butterfly that can be called a wandering donkey deserves to be someone's favorite. So we're going to keep checking around here, and it's amazing. As I said, we could spend hours here and not see all the insects. I'm really hoping we manage to grab one of these skipper butterflies. They are very fast moving. They don't even sit on the flowers for very long. Okay, there's a skipper, Jeandre. Okay, we'll follow the stick. I don't want him to fly. You see him there? Okay, he's sitting, and incredibly fast flying butterfly, which means he's tasty. So he's got to fly fast to avoid the birds. And you can see a very, very big developed thorax and body, and a very big head for a butterfly. So quite a robust butterfly, and they need that robustness to get that speed when they fly. They are very pretty, And you can see its underside there. The beautiful stripes. Unfortunately, it is quite windy. Jandre, you're doing a fantastic job. Oh, and he's actually coming a little bit closer to us. I mean, you can see that robust body and that robust head and midriff that I was talking about that helps create that speed. And look at the size of its compound eye. Really big eye compared to the other butterflies. So I'm not sure which, oh, they're really off, which exact butterfly that is, but it is part of the skipper. A skipper butterfly, and it's a first sighting for one of our long time viewers, Raisa. So while Jandre shows you the swarming bonnets and foresters, I'm going to venture deeper into this Peltiforum to see if I can find something else. Oh, the acria has actually just popped up into a really nice, pretty spot, Jandre. And it's a butterfly that's quite often, it's really beautiful on the outside as well as the inside of the wings. Oh, off it goes. So we're going to try and get some of the more difficult ones now. I think they're all difficult. Jandre cackles at me. He's like, this man is mad, making me crawl around after bugs in the bush. But we're going to try see if we can get some of the wasp species that are also feeding off the nectar. And these ones can sting us, but they're probably not going to. We're not interfering with them. We're just standing on the edge and looking in. So we're going to do a trip around, and we might find a few different fruit chafer species. Here we go. Here's a wasp, Jandre. I'm going to take my hand away. Hopefully it'll move into a slightly better position shortly. And you can see that really big end of the abdomen that holds the sting. And I would be lying if I tried to tell you which wasp this was or which family it belonged to. I'm not sure. There he goes. Off he flies. And now I did see some robber flies, which were quite small. We do get some bigger species of robber fly here as well, which also... Jandre is making a really funny face going, oh my goodness, he's now going to try and make me find flies. This morning it was tiny spiders. Now we're going to try find flies. But let's keep on our trip around the Peltiforum. And interesting enough, quite a few different species of moth will also lay their eggs on the Peltiforum. We've got some more mating foresters, and some more mating fruit chafers. Oh, two pairs of mating foresters. That looks like it's the honeymoon section of the tree. And of course I'm keeping a very sharp eye out for another crab spider. I'm just going to keep moving. Thought I saw a weevil. Whoa, nearly taken out by a fruit chafer there. I'm just going to keep slowly moving. So guys, I've actually lost count of how many different species of chojos or nunus, bugs that we've seen so far on this specific tree. So I'd really appreciate it if you guys could figure out the species. I can remember forester, an acria, a bonnet, a wasp, but I hope you guys, and a bunch of fruit chafers. Okay, seems like the high action zones, these flowers on this side of the tree haven't opened yet, so the high action zone's definitely this side. So let's move back into the high action zone, see if we can find a robber fly to keep Jandre busy. But we have seen definitely one different Jandre. That tiny little black thing there. On the leaf. There. Now that is not what you probably think it is. That is not a bug. Oh, so you lost it. I don't want it to move there. That tiny little black thing, that is more likely a fruit trafer's leavings. It's a piece of a beetle dung.
Sorry, bad.
So Jean-André is trying to get it. It is absolutely minute. You got it. And with the wind, it's also quite difficult. So there we go. A fruit chafer's leavings. I'm just going to take one last quick perusal, see if there's anything we've missed. And I can't see anything offhand. As I said, we could probably spend 3 hours just looking for stuff here. But isn't this incredible? And I do love my bugs, and there's going to be quite a few more coming through. Annie, you are definitely correct. I am in my absolute element. I've tracked a leopard on foot today, and now I get to play with the chokos. There could not be anything better. So I think we've seen quite a lot here, and I still want to try see if I can find a second leopard for the day. So we're going to go back to shadow so you can see the flat cat.
I'm glad that you were enjoying the bug extravaganza with Brent. Shadow still hasn't really moved at all. She's very much decided to prove me wrong when I said that I thought that she was going to get up and move very shortly. She's decided that no, absolutely not. The nice thick dense shade of the weeping wattle that the weeping wattle is providing is the perfect place to set up camp. Now guys, there are other vehicles waiting to get into this sighting, and in fact we're pretty much in the only position where you can have a chance to see her. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to leave her for now, but I'll be back as soon as the spot opens up in the sighting. We can come back and join her again and see what she's got planned for the rest of her afternoon. But never fear, we're going to go and say a quick hello to Peter, who's also waiting to make his way in and is waiting just outside on the road. Let's see if we can find our way back out again. Alright, Shadow, please kindly stick around. Matter of navigating our way out of here. So, base control. Careful, drop.
Yeah, it's coming down.
Okay. Brian spotted a hole. How big is the hole? Oh, it's not too bad. Alright, we just might have to do a bit of a... Let's do a little bit of a circuit around said hole. Okay, we good? Cool. Brian's got the added advantage of height, which I definitely don't have, and there's a couple of sort of sudden dips in the ground that I would prefer not to expose us to, if at all possible. Here we go. Now
Looking forward to getting on the Land Rovers as well for the live drives very soon. And we're going to go look around a bit. We might see some ellies. We've got a nice evening planned. We're going to have some food in the bush tonight with these guys. So great to say hello, and great to just have an opportunity to introduce you guys to you guys. So
very exciting times lie ahead.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, eh?
Awesome, enjoy. And Peter, if you want to go, you're more welcome.
Yeah, I think Andrew's pulled out.
Yeah. Okay. Enjoy.
See you guys soon.
Cheers.
Okay.
Wow, we really do have some amazing and exciting things in the pipeline. Definitely going to be an incredible time for us, for all of us. I will be making my way back towards Shadow as soon as there's a place available for us. It's very difficult in that sighting because although typically 3 vehicles are allowed into a sighting, in that particular circumstance, really only one could steer, which was us. And I was starting to feel terribly guilty for hogging the best view of Shadow, so we'll leave the other game drive vehicles to head in for now, and we'll catch up with her. And it starts to get a bit dark and a bit cooler, and there's a better chance of her moving around. I wonder where she's going to decide to head to next. Is she going to go north towards Buffelshoek, or is she going to head back west across to Simbambili, which is really more part of her core territorial area? Be interesting to see. Or is she ranging about to continue on with our conversation? Is she ranging on looking for mating opportunities with other male leopards in the area? That's also a distinct possibility. Continue on and see what else we can find. I'm really excited that the hyena den is active again. That is such thrilling news. And that tiny cub, I haven't seen it yet, wasn't awake when I went to check it out this morning. But that tiny cub, I saw the screenshots that all of the viewers put up. I absolutely think it looks adorable. I can't wait to get there and see it for the first time. Also very curious to see if the mother is a hyena that we know, maybe a hyena that was regularly visiting the den when all of the others were with their 3 sets of cubs. It's been a bit of a lesson on bugs on today's bushwalk, and I believe they have another one to show you, so let's head across to them.
So we've got an incredible predator here. Again, not the predator we've been searching for, but a really impressive predator nonetheless. And you can see him moving quite quickly. Oh, I'm going to put my stick there. And it's called a 2-spot ground beetle. Here we go. And oh no, he doesn't like my stick. And they're incredible little land-based hunters. They're unable to fly, and they've got incredibly powerful jaws which enable them to crush their prey. And their prey will be lots of other little insects like grasshoppers, or one just escaped. But the more impressive thing is their defensive system against other creatures like us. If I had to pick him up, apart from his incredibly fierce mandibles, he's able to spray formic acid out of his mouth parts for up to 15 centimeters. There we go, a 2-spot ground beetle named after those 2 yellow dots. Some of these ground beetles have really fantastic names. There's one called a monstrous ground beetle, and there's another called a grotesque ground beetle. When I'm being attacked now, going right towards me. Let's put my stick down. So I'm not going to pick him up, as I said. He can bite me and he can spray acid on me. So at the moment he's just hunting, and that's how he hunts, in these very quick little movements, trying to disturb other insects. Oh, incredible creatures. So he's off, and all grasshoppers and other small insects in the area better beware. On the prowl, they do a lot of their hunting at night as well, and they tend to like open patches like this with a bit of sand, but we're going to let him continue on, and you're going to join us for a little bit. So we're still looking for Karula. So we're right on the edge of Philemon's cut line, and we're trying to see for tracks on the softer sand where she might have crossed. If we get no luck here, we're going to go all the way down to the end and then head back and start checking those big marulas that she loves to sleep in. But while we do that, I'm still perusing the distance, hoping to see that sort of leopard silhouette in the tree. I'm going to see if we can find us some flowers. There's a nice area for flowers, so I'm going to see if we can find something around here. Now, a really lovely comment from Donna, and she says everything from dung beetles to beetle dung on WildEarth safaris, and she's loving these bushworks. Donna, us too. I love being out on foot. It is great to be on the vehicles, but every now and then it is good to reconnect with Mother Nature. So I'm looking for a very specific flower that likes to grow in these slightly disturbed soils. It's called an African violet. Very, very beautiful flower, and I have seen them around here before, and they have just started flowering. So hopefully we have a little bit of luck on this lovely little open area we're walking through, and at the same time still checking the horizon and those big marulas for Karula. It's amazing, it's got so still at the moment. Can't even hear a bird calling. So we can see, quite interesting here, if we have a look, I spoke about how the caterpillars of a lot of the species will defoliate a plant, and here we have a little baby Acacia exuvialis, and you can see some of the leaves have completely stripped that one there. So a caterpillar has been here and has fed off this, so it's a bit bedraggled looking at the moment, but I'm sure it'll be fine. So hopefully we actually find these caterpillars so we can look at insects in both their larval stage as well as their adult stage. Well, we're going to go off to Scotty, who's got something really fantastic, and I know you guys are going to love it.
Loop ahead of him quickly. Welcome back, everyone. And you've been spending a lot of time with a female leopard called Shadow. This individual is a massive male, a dominant male. He was actually recently seen mating with Shadow. We're going to try and loop ahead of him quickly so we can get some great frontal views as he passes by. Yay! Tingana! We haven't seen a big male leopard for quite some time now, and I'm really looking forward to sharing this experience with all of you. If it's your first safari, you're in for a treat, because it's not often we get to see these big males. They've got large ranging territories. And we've now just got ahead of this pathway. We're now going to just get off it and wait for him to head past us. I'm sure he's going to continue straight along the left of our vehicle. What he may do is actually scent mark at this marula tree. Sadly, it's a little bit obstructed. Oh, I think he did just scent mark there. Not uncommon for them to use the marula trees as posts to leave signs and signals on. And just like Shadow, he also appears to be carrying a little bit of a limp. Maybe it was an injury they sustained whilst mating. It can be quite a physical affair. This is magnificent. Golden afternoon sunlight. He's going to scent mark again. I must say a big thank you to the guides on Sibambili and Arathusa. They did find him and let us know that he had just crossed into Djuma, and we were lucky enough to relocate him thanks to VM's great eyes, who spotted him lying at the base of a termite mound. Now he's moving into quite a thick area, and what I want to do is try and get the vehicle onto the other side of it as soon as possible so that we can stay with him. Once he's got through there, then we should be able to stay with him for quite some time. And while we reposition, we're going to send you up into the sky for a flight on the drone.
Well, everybody, at Buffelshoek Dam, the water levels continue to drop, unfortunately. Well, that's not unfortunate, it's just the way it is out here. A beautiful elephant bull circling around the dam, where he's trying to have a drink out of what can only be described as the last of the green, greasy water of Buffelshoek Dam, to paraphrase Rudyard Kipling. Also in the dam, well, you can see a little blacksmith plover running away from the magnificence of that elephant bull. There's also a few hippo in the dam, and I did manage to see, just before you crossed across here, that's terrible English, just before you came across to us here, the two Egyptian geese and their 4 little goslings. Look at the shadow as he passes over that little peninsula, and there's no doubt in my mind that this is the actual king of the jungle. The lion lying under a guarri bush, often in a very close proximity to his toilet, is nothing like the magnificence of an elephant bull like this. You can see the birds flying out of his way and everything. There's nothing out here that will stand in the way of an elephant bull. There you can see the hippopotamus. They're enjoying the last of Buffelshoek Dam's waters. And just behind them, those little blobs there are the Egyptian geese that are, well, perhaps the least successful Egyptian goose family that we've seen this year at Buffelshoek. And you can also see the drone commander there filming this wonderful elephant bull. Off to the west, you can now see the sun is starting to set gently over the Drakensberg mountains. You won't see the mountains, it's been a very windy day, of course, but the heat has come off, and everything you'll find is starting to breathe a sigh of relief. You watched, of course, the leopard Shadow panting heavily in the heat as she was trying to digest her meal from last night, and that heat will now dissipate gently away as that elephant moves up the drainage line that feeds Buffelshoek Dam. What a spectacular picture of this epic environment in which we are privileged to call ourselves at home. I hope you're enjoying these shots. This is a new experience for me, talking through the drone from the quarantine clearings. In case you're wondering where my voice is coming from, it isn't in fact coming from the ether. I'm sitting on quarantine clearings in a tent, and Andrew, of course, is miles away at Buffelshoek Dam, where this elephant bull has just been enjoying his sundowner. There he is, Andrew, and the vehicle. And what else has he got there with him? I think that's the stump. It's difficult sometimes to see what it is exactly the drone is looking at. And let's go back now and see if we can't get another look at those hippopotami. You can also get a really good view now of exactly how the lay of the land works. So while we're enjoying the potential of being able to look at herds of animals from a different view, you also can enjoy a view of the reserve that you've never had before. And what that means is that when we say we've come to Buffelshoek Dam, you can get an idea of the topography, which you don't get from a vehicle. And I think that's a really special opportunity for us. Look at the geese there. And you can see the hippo are totally unfazed by those geese. And I suspect that the geese, rather like the drongos, will follow mammals as they walk through the bush. I suspect those geese and their goslings will be knocking about that little pod of hippos in order to try and pick up the bits and pieces of, they normally eat algae, geese, although we've seen these ones eating fish, which is supposed to be impossible, but I've definitely seen them fishing. But they probably pick up the bits of algae, maybe one or two invertebrates that are kicked up by the hippos as they go about their lazy day. There you can see the 4 goslings, look at that from the air. And one day they too, of course, will be flying, much like Andrew Francis is with this incredible drone. There's also it's gone now, but it was a hammerkop sitting on the back of those hippopotamus. Right, so Andrew's now flying in a southerly direction down a road called Hippo Pools. Well, he's actually about to film the top of his own head, I think. Yes, there he is. And he's landing. And we are going to link now back to Jamie. I'm not sure what she's looking at. In fact, I can see what she's looking at. She's still looking for shadow, and we will see you a little bit later.
Alrighty, so an interesting twist to the tale. Tingana is pretty much within 500 meters of where we left Shadow. I'm now making my way back towards that area to see if we can find her again and see what she's been up to, because who knows, those two might decide to have another rendezvous. It'll be very interesting to see if they do. Just got to get there first, which means hop over the street, and over the street, there we go. We did have somebody trying to follow us to her. I appear to have lost him though. Alrighty, but Scott's got Tingana back again, so let's head across to him for now.
Well, he's crossed through the riverbed now. We've managed to relocate him. Isn't he a fine specimen? Andre is about to get onto it. There's the virtual reality rig filming. That's going to be exciting to watch how that turns out. Hello, boy. And as I guessed, he's heading straight into Buffels Hook, our northern neighbours, where we sadly are not permitted to go. But we did have a wonderful view of them, or of him rather. I'm just going to move forward ever so slightly, causing a bit of a traffic jam here. Back it. And as we creep along here, we should be able to get you.
Alrighty, well, we've made our way back to where Shadow is, and we do apologise for the abrupt departure from Scott, but it's okay, because Shadow is exactly where we left her. I'm going to just try and get us into a nice position so that we can see her again, without planting Brian either into a hole or a silver cluster leaf. There she is. Oh. Looking, if possible, even flatter than when we last had her. Fortunately, I don't feel any guilt anymore about blocking off other people's view to the sighting, as that branch seems to be doing, in exactly the wrong place. We can just see her little furry paws sticking out, lying there. I still wish she'd roll over so I could have a check of her other side. Oh, and it seems as though Tingana is crossing into Buffels Hook, so we'll pop across there.
Well, Taxon's guests are getting a great view, and look at all the smiles on their faces. That's the last view we'll have of Tingana. We are sadly not allowed to go anymore. And as he disappears around this next corner, we'll say our goodbyes and wave him off and wish him a happy evening. I've never actually seen him heading into this portion of Buffels Hook before, so interesting to see where his territory is moving and how it's shifting. And as I say that, he was leaning into a bush, in all likelihood about to scent mark. Now, another beautiful thing I can show you from up here is the sun that's setting out to the west, some beautiful cloud formations. Look at that, what an evening. And we've been spoilt once again by some wonderful sights this afternoon. A female leopard, a male leopard, a host of interesting little bugs with Brent on the bushwalk, and now a magical sunset. Now, for those of you who may be joining for the first time, you may be wondering, why are the other vehicles allowed to drive there and why aren't we? And it's important that we explain that. We tend to forget why sometimes us as humans are prevented from going wherever we're allowed to, but the animals are free roaming and have no boundaries or rules permitted to them, which is great. And the simple answer is simply to make sure that there are never too many people in an animal's area, so it doesn't become overcrowded and chaotic. You would hate to bump into a traffic jam out here, and that's exactly what the different traversing agreements make sure that doesn't happen, is that when you're driving around there's not going to be too many vehicles ruining your wilderness experience and also putting too much pressure on the animals. So we're allowed to go into other areas where these vehicles aren't allowed to go, and vice versa. Sadly for us now, it's just our bad luck, but the other people will continue. Just saying goodbye to them, having a wonderful afternoon. And what we need to remember is that all the boundaries and neighboring properties will always inform us, just like when Tingana crossed into Juma, even though it was very briefly, those guides made sure they got the message to us. Good. Hello Gracie, aged 8, one of our youngest viewers, but the amount of safaris Gracie's joining us on, she's soon going to know more about this than any of the presenters are. Gracie, good to know you're watching, and she's asked a clever question. She would like to know if there's any chance the leopard's spray is different from its urine, if that kind of spray for the scent mark is different to the urine. And Gracie, I don't think it is. I think it's the same liquid that's used, that they spray. But I'm very happy to hear you're thinking about those little things, because it means you are going to be a wonderful safari guide when you grow up one day. Here at VM, it's at about 10 or 11 o'clock there. You got it? Well done, VM. I think this is the Jacobin's cuckoo. But when it's facing away, it's difficult to tell. The calls are confusing. It's either the Jacobins or the Lavalians. I'm not sure if any of you know from the call. But for me, I always get confused between the Jacobins and the Lavalians in terms of their... But I think maybe... this long-tailed shrike, which reminds me that I need to show you a small video I took of the other nest we found earlier this morning, or earlier this afternoon. So I just used my little camera to video a short sequence of what is actually in that nest. So take a look at this, and then we'll be able to work out. Okay, so I've got my little selfie stick out, and I'm going to now take you in to see what's in this bird's nest. How's that looking? Good? As you can see, nothing yet, but we'll keep monitoring it, and soon there should be some eggs there. How cool was that? So we at least managed to work out that there are no eggs in the magpie shrike or long-tailed shrike's nest. But what this Jacobin's cuckoo, I think it's a Jacobin's cuckoo, is looking for are the eggs of the magpie shrike, or at least the nest. What it'll do is it'll throw one of the shrike's nests out, lay its own egg in there, and usually what happens is the cuckoo's eggs hatch very quickly before the eggs of their host, meaning that the cuckoo is the first little chick that gets fed by its foster parents, and because it's the first one to get fed, it starts growing the fastest and usually outcompetes the actual young of the foster parents. So quite brutal what happens with the cuckoos, but they are very clever and it is nature, and I'm guessing that that's what could be happening. That cuckoo could well parasitize these shrikes. I'm not too sure. I'm going to have to do some research on that. But that is something we need to keep in mind at this time of the year. We nearly saw a Levalian's cuckoo who parasitizes strictly the arrow-marked babblers in this area. And they were having a huge row. The arrow-marked babblers were chasing the cuckoo and the cuckoo was chasing the babblers. A really cool sighting. Let's stop here. There's some wonderful afternoon sunlight on this long-tailed shrike. He was responsible for building, well, its cousin at least, or a friend of his was responsible for building that nest you've just had a look at now. Wonderful. And I'm just going to move off the road quickly. Craig is rushing off to have a quick look at Tingana, the leopard we've just been with. Cheers, Craig. Cheers, everyone. Now, another special request from my friend Gracie. Also on the topic of birds, she would like to see some videos, and I'm sure all of you would like to see them because they're actually really interesting. And they are basically a sequence of videos I've taken of a lilac-breasted roller's nest. And the first video I took was on the 10th of this month, and the chicks hardly had any feathers on them, which you can kind of vaguely make out in the video. And yesterday, I think, was the most recent video I took, and you'll notice the differences. So let me show you those quickly now. Okay. So, let me just get into a good spot where there's not too much glare. Zoom in a bit. Now, you can see those are tiny little wings, that's a head, and what I'm covering is the other chick. There's two of them. Moved a little bit so that people can see what you actually are. I don't think we're going to get that lucky. So that was the first video I took of them on the 10th, of this month. And I'm not very good on my cell phone, as you'll learn very quickly, but I'm getting there. And then this is the second video that I took. Let me just make sure, sorry, just so that I can give you the correct information. Sorry, VM. I took this video yesterday at 7:11 a.m. Okay. So this is just 9 days later. So you can see at least one little head there. They're nestled up next to one another. The second one's head, I think, is facing the opposite direction, but look at all those bright feathers, and they're looking just like their parents are now, and I think it'll be pretty soon before they come out and we can take a closer look at them. How cool is that? They're actually sitting the very same way that they were when they were featherless. One was facing the same kind of head to toe, you could say. And I hope you enjoyed that, Gracie, and everyone else. We are going to keep monitoring their progress, and like I said in that little video, they're probably going to leave the nest quite soon, and then we can see them flying around, learning about aviation. Now, more about aviation. Brent has found some of the essential flight gear used by the birds for getting from A to B, and he's also in a beautiful area where he would like to take you on a little bit of a scenic tour. Enjoy.
So welcome back, and you can see the sun is dipping below the horizon, and while we've been wandering through the bush, we have found a few interesting things, well, one in particular, and I'm still wondering what exactly this feather, as Scott mentioned, the flight gear that Scott was talking about. So there we go, very, very pretty. It's quite dark with a very distinct white stripe through it. I have my suspicions about what this is. I think it's probably from a cuckoo. I think either a Levalance cuckoo or a Jacobin cuckoo. But they've got very similar coloration. So when you see them, normally they look black, but as you can see, there's a little purple sheen to that black. And a really wonderful thing. I'm definitely going to take this one back with me and put it to the table, see what all the other guys think, and girls think what this might be. And of course, while on foot, when the sun starts setting, it's time for us to start making our way back towards the safety of home, because we don't want to become dinner for some of the big cats out here. So from Jeandre and myself, it's been fantastic having you out on the bushwalk. Incredible to find Shadow on foot while tracking live. So very exciting. And then that most amazing experience around the Peltiforum, or weeping wattle with all the insects. And hopefully we'll be able to find out what this is a little bit later. But you'll have to wait tomorrow for the sunrise safari. Scott and Jamie.
As you can see, Shadow has moved. She's lifted up her head and is therefore being caught slowly by the glorious rays of the setting sun. If we can just watch her for a moment, I'll respond to the Game Drive channel. Standing by. Scott, I'm with Shadow at the moment. I'll probably stay with her unless something changes, just to the east of Sandy Patch Junction, Boyatela main access. Just coordinating with Scott as to what our movements for the next 40 minutes shall be. You know, of course, Brian, we haven't found our baby impala yet, so we can't actually go home until we do. We may be driving around in circles in the evening. Except, of course, that we can't do that because we can't shine lights on them. As I said, the rays of the setting sun have slowly dipped away. They were highlighting Shadow beautifully. And I think she has missed her chance at contact with Tingana. At his closest, he was probably about 500 meters away. He's now crossed into Buffel's Hook by the sounds of it and is moving away. So perhaps these two have ended their dalliance, which I guess was to be expected. They have been mating for about a week, and their time together is done for the moment. She's still panting very heavily. I'm not sure if that's still the remnants of the full belly or it's just that she's hot. The evening has, now that the clouds have cleared, definitely retained that very strong summer feeling. Hello, beautiful. And she's perfectly framed by the limbs of the weeping wattle that has been her sanctuary for the last 2 hours. Just a little pink tongue sticking out. Interestingly, while I've been sitting here, I've just been doing some perusal of my books, and I looked up, just sort of, I wouldn't say aimlessly, but out of curiosity, I looked up leopard in a book that is on wildflowers and traditional medicine and traditional cures. And the first thing that came up was leopard bite. I then went and had a look. And now we all know that leopards' mouths must carry a serious amount of bacteria, just as our own do. Our mouths are just as dangerous in terms of infection as a leopard's, but they can transmit quite a serious infection if they do bite. And traditionally, what I discovered is that the Zulu people, who are one of the most dominant tribes of South Africa, Zulu people have a traditional remedy if somebody is bitten by a leopard or a lion or even something like a monkey or baboon. is to go out and kill a rock hyrax, or what we know as a dussie. It's a little cliff-dwelling or rock-dwelling creature. And they use its urine to clean out the wound. They mix its urine with leaves that carry that same property as devil's thorn. It's a very soapy plant, soapy mixture. And they use that as a disinfectant. Oh, and we're up. There we go. Now, are you going to follow after Tingana, or are you going to pick your own path in a different direction? I actually think it's quite likely that Tingana and Shadow don't know how close they were to each other. They probably don't know that the other was here. Where is she going to go? Or is she... Big cat stretch. Oh. Not quite sure what that was about. Can't really see her face. In order to do so, we're going to have to reposition, and I think we're going to have to do that now because she's going to move. Alright everybody, hold on. Let's try and get ourselves out of here and avoid that dip that Brian so kindly pointed out to me the last time. How are we doing, Brian? We're good. Cool. Alright, let's see if we can figure out where Shadow's going to head off to. Her evening walk. If I can find her. I think Brian spotted her. Oh, awesome. Oh, you got it there, Brian? She has not gone very far at all. There she is. Hello, girl. Alrighty, now that she's settled down, I believe the drone has a beautiful aerial shot of the sunset as piloted by Andrew, so let's head up to there.
Right everybody, welcome back here. Oh dear, one of my screens has just gone, never mind, it's back. Ha, there we go. Beautiful sunset you can see. Andrew filming the sun disappearing down west, obviously, over the Drakensberg mountains. Now, we have a surprise for you. We're going to attempt to bring you into the tent, as it were, and I think that will happen pretty soon. There it is. That is the shot that you have from the tent. There I am. Isn't that astonishing? So from the sunset there, and now we're going to show you something even more spectacular. This little device that you can see here is filming a little flower. And what we're going to do is try and switch across to the feed that is coming directly from this microscope here and show you the magnificent flower that is Zinnia peruviana. Presto. Can you believe it? That is Zinnia peruviana, a very small example thereof. You can see the anthers with all of their pollen on them. You can see the lovely red flower, and it's called Zinnia peruviana because it is not in fact from South Africa. It is from Peru, and surprisingly. Now we've got a whole little ecosystem going on here underneath this microscope. What I'm going to try and do is change the focus slightly, and you can see a spider. The spider looks like it's about to come up and eat something, but actually it is deceased. There it is. And we've got some leaves, and you can see the incredible detail. Let's go back to the flower. I think we get better detail there. And the ecology of this flower is quite interesting because although it is an exotic and it grows all over these although it grows a couple of technical glitches, it grows all over the game reserve areas. It is in fact not invasive, and so we're allowed to enjoy it despite the fact that it isn't in fact from here. Now, that is the other thing that I have to show you underneath here. We'll try once more quickly. Is a millipede. Now the millipede, that is not a living millipede, of course. That is the middle section of a long deceased millipede, almost a fossil. But what you can see there are the incredible number of legs, A, and B, where they've joined onto the shell, and you can see each perfect segment of this millipede's shell. Isn't that astonishing? And you can, all of the flesh would have been eaten out of this millipede, probably by a scorpion, maybe even by something like a Speke's hinged tortoise. I don't know what that means. Oh, okay. Apparently our battery's about to go, but don't worry. If it does, we'll find something else to show you. So much around that there is at the moment. So that millipede there, apart from being normally eaten by various things like Speke's hinged tortoises and scorpions, is also full of cyanide. And bits of shell like this find their way into the covering that hornbills put on their nests. Now, hornbills are nesting all over the place.
And as silence descends, as the evening approaches, Shadow is still feeling the effects of whatever large meal she had. This time, however, she is on her left side, which means we should be able to see a little bit of her right. Unfortunately, she's not lying in the best position for it. I wanted to try and get a look at whatever's hurting her leg, but short of her getting up and moving closer, I don't think we're going to have a good chance to see it. We just need her to get up and start to walk, and then maybe we'll be able to see what's hurting her. I'm curious. I want to know what kind of injury it is, and whether or not we can try and work out if it was something gained during a hunting experience, or whether or not it was induced by Tingana. If we look at the back of her neck, it's not quite as scruffy as Karula's was looking after she was mating with Tingana, but I'm fairly certain there's going to be a couple of bites there, in places possibly where Tingana will have broken the skin. And I imagine she might be relishing the piece as much as Tingana would be. We've seen a lot of scent marking from Shadow as well as Karula, and I imagine that Tingana was out and about doing something very similar. Now, Richard King, you were wondering if females ever grimace in the same way that we very often see males doing when they're trying to test the scent of a female or another male. And yes, both females and males will do it. We don't see the females doing it as often, but I have seen them doing it, particularly in response to another female's urine spray. And for those of you not quite sure what I'm talking about, the grimace, it's known as the phlegm grimace, which is a reflex that allows the animal to open up the ducts to the gland or the organ that sits on the roof of their mouth. It's known as the organ of Jacobson, also known as the vomeral nasal organ, and it basically is a specialized organ that can almost taste smells. And for animals like leopards and for lions, what they do to open up and get that scent in there is to lift and draw up their top lip and crunch up their nose, almost like they're snarling. And pretty much all of the animals that you see out here will have an organ of Jacobson and will practice some form of that phlegm grimace. I think probably the most hilarious one is to watch a white rhino do it. It's so funny. They look ridiculous. And then for something like an elephant, they can't pull up their trunk. And speaking of elephant, I believe that Scott has a big bull to show you, so let's head across to him.
Welcome back, everyone. There's a big elephant bull just off to our right. He is moving through some thick bush. We will do our best to try and get you another view of him. And our luck continues on safari this afternoon. He doesn't seem very happy with us, so I'm just going to stop for now. He's taking a toilet break, but while he's doing so, he is multitasking, and you can see his front end is busy working, getting him a few mouthfuls of leaves. And maybe that's what was upsetting him, that he was bursting to go to the toilet, and now that he has, I'm hoping he'll calm down again and allow us to get some more views of him. But no, it looks like he's going to just continue moving off quite a steady pace. Let me try go back a bit and get one more view. I'm hoping Shadow's not going to be sleeping for much longer, and soon she'll be up taking you guys hunting with her. Good prospects, I'm sure that will happen. And if I was you, I wouldn't be going anywhere with prospects of leopards hunting. Oh no, he's just moving too quickly for us, and the bush is just getting thicker and thicker, but we will be able to get you one more glimpse of him as he disappears off. It's incredible how such a large mass actually blends in quite well with these surroundings, especially in the summer months when it becomes very thick. And it's important to remember, especially when out walking like Brent will certainly have been keeping very aware of not only the bugs and beetles he was showing you, but also of these large animals that can disappear surprisingly easy in this thick bush. An update that I forgot to give you guys is that we saw Junior last night, the young male lion from the Nkahuma Pride. And the Nkahuma Pride were also around on Buffalo's Hook, where I was lucky enough to go around on a drive onto some uncharted territory. And of course, not only seeing the territory, but also the Nkahuma Pride, as well as Junior, who was not with them. He was probably about 3/4 of a mile away from them, but he's looking so impressive. And I guess it's been a couple of months since I last saw him. I'd lost track, but his mane's developing very well. He looked to be in good health. I'm sure a lot of you will be happy to hear that. He is still doing well. Still got a very tough future ahead of him though. And what I'm hoping is that the Nkahuma Pride is going to come back onto Djuma for a visit sometime soon. And where they were on Buffalo's Hook yesterday evening is not too far north and east of the Buffalo's Hook waterhole here on Djuma. And that is where we are heading towards, in the hope that we'll find them drinking. Those are our plans. Hello, Rocky Nightmare and Rich King. And I think I got It's Pretty Nightmare and Rocky somebody else. I'm not sure what I've done wrong, but it's Rich King and somebody else. So interested to know what this funny device is for. Oh, it's just Rocky Night, not Pretty Nightmare. I got them confused. Apologies, but this funny device is a virtual reality filming device, and basically what that means is that there are 7 cameras in a cluster there, and they film every single angle 360 degrees around. And then what you do is you put on a pair of special kind of headsets called an Oculus Rift, And this Oculus Rift allows you to determine where you are looking. So it's fairly self-explanatory, I guess. If we stop here and I pan off to the tree on the right-hand side of us here, with the Oculus Rift, you would be able to decide how far up this tree you want to look, how far down, straight up, into the sky, any which direction. You choose where to look. And if you look in the wrong direction, you may miss something as you pass by. So essentially you can watch these videos time and time again, and you'll always be seeing something that you may have missed on a previous episode or previous video. Now, I don't think the technology is nearly there or quite there for filming or using an Oculus Rift and a virtual reality camera in a live broadcast yet, but our technical wizards and kind of founders of the company want to keep ahead of the game, and by keeping up to date with all this technology, it'll make us more likely to be in a good spot to make this kind of technology applicable to a live safari. And imagine that. You'll be sitting on the back of the vehicle, deciding where you look, when you look there, but we're still quite some time away from that. What this will be great for those to be allowed to share wonderful experiences with people and immerse them in Africa, in close-up encounters with different creatures. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what kind of footage we capture with it. This is the first afternoon we are using it, and we've already got some footage of Tingana, that male leopard, as well as that elephant bull a bit earlier. So, got off to a great start this afternoon, and let's just see how the footage comes out. It's not a permanent fixture, by the way, we're just test driving it. Hello to Regina and Anne, and thank you so much to you guys for your kind words regarding all of the technology, the drone, the bushwalk, the microscope, the tent, now this. And you're right, as I've said, our tech guys as well as the founders of the company are really one step ahead of the game, making sure that we are supplied with the latest technology and the latest toys, which understandably always puts a big smile on all of our faces when a new gizmo arrives. And I'm glad you guys are enjoying it too, because it really does pay to make technology work for us in conservation, in nature, and get us that much closer to the animals, or make this experience that much more real for everyone involved. So thank you for your kind words. We're certainly loving the new additions to our team, and give us as much feedback as you can on them. And as a lot of you will be aware, there will be some technical difficulties bound to be attached to the new toys, but thankfully we've got an incredibly genius team that manages to crack the codes and get the impossible sorted out, usually without too much hassle. What is going to be at the waterhole? It's just around the next corner here. Possibly another leopard. That would be 4 leopards in one day. Karula and Shadow this morning, Shadow and Tingana this afternoon. Well, no leopard, but it looks like a pod of 5 hippos and a family of 2 Egyptian geese with their 4 goslings. They've started off with 7, so sadly they've lost 3 of their little goslings. Not too sure what got them. The first one that was taken had an injured leg. It was a hop along from the first day we saw them. But not easy business raising a family out here. There are just so many predators that makes things tricky. Well, I think these hippos are going to start getting restless. They are nocturnal grazers, and we can expect them to head out fairly soon. And I'm happy that you guys are now getting a ground level view of what's going on here at the waterhole, because I'm told you had a beautiful scenic flight with James narrating the drone's movements. As I was saying, they are nocturnal, the hippopotamus, so they're going to start thinking about heading out to go and find some grass to feed on, and that would be wonderful to see if we actually get to see them heading out. It may still be some time though. Last night we drove past here at around 7:30 after we left the young male lion from the Inkuhuma pride called Junior, and as we were driving past on Buffelshoek cut line, maybe 200 or 300 meters away from here, we saw two hippo heading off into Buffelshoek. So I'm guessing that's probably the time they head out, probably around 10 past 7, so already after dark. But no set rules, and every evening may be different, and what you'll find is in winter they tend to head out of the water earlier on, because they have to travel further in search of food, which is more scarce in the winter months. And we've been racing around and seeing so much this afternoon that I think it's going to be a good opportunity to just stop and listen. And I think our best view to stop and just have a minute or so of silence and reflection as to what's gone down this afternoon. I think that's a decent view. And I'm just going to keep quiet just for a minute, and we can all do the same thing and just enjoy it. Well, I'm sure a lot of you enjoyed that little moment of tranquility. I certainly did. My mind went straight back to Tingana, and I really do love big male leopards, and the brief time we did get to spend with them this afternoon was really great quality, and that's important to remember on safari. It's not always about quantity, but quality of sightings is also very important, and I feel that that was a high quality sighting. I hope you guys agree. Interesting news. You are about to be transported into the safari tent, where Brent has taken something that he found on the bushwalk into James for a closer inspection. I wish I was coming along with you guys. Enjoy.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the tent, where we are sitting in a glorious dusk light. Now, to link up with the walk, Brent Leo Smith drove back, he walked, he lumbered in a little while earlier, sweating profusely, as did Jean-Ray. Brent was carrying a small stick, Jean-Ray was carrying 40 kilograms of equipment. That's just how it works out here. Right, what we're going to do is cross it over to the microscope cam, and that you can see there is the end of a beetle's foot. And that is not what I wanted to link to you, but I just wanted to quickly show you basically what is a beetle's leg, and those little hairs. You've seen beetles crawling up and down vertical surfaces and sometimes up and down. Those little hairs help them to do that. Right, now I'm going to pull him out of there, and now I'm going to focus in on the feather that the inimitable Brent Leo Smith had affixed to his hat. Now we both have agreed, and therefore it is incontestable, that this feather belonged to a Jacobin or Levallian's cuckoo. The two cuckoo species that we see flying around here, black and white they are. One used to be called the striped cuckoo, and the interesting thing about the picture of the feather on the microscope is not so much the colours. First of all, they look black and white when you see them fly, but there's very clearly some pigment there. But the other thing to look at, if we can, is the fact that there are barbs. Now, I don't know if you can see there, on the feather in the middle of the screen, I've split the two filaments of the feather, and you can see that each filament is covered in a layer of barbs. Now, I can't point that out to you because it will make you seasick, but those filaments, at least those barbs, are what stick the filaments together. Now, when you see a bird preening itself, it's obviously also rubbing oil all over the feathers from various oil glands around the place, but it's also sticking those barbs together like Velcro. And what they do is the two filaments will come together, and those barbs will hold the filaments together a little bit like Velcro would hold Velcro together, really. And that's what they're doing. You often see birds preening, and they move their beaks all over their bodies, putting oil on them and rejoining those filaments together so that when they fly away, they don't plummet from the sky and end up in a heap on the ground, which is of course what would happen if we tried to fly. Right, the other thing that we can show you over here on the microscope, if you'll excuse my rather amateurish attempts here, because this is my first time. It's the first time for everything, you know. This is another piece of jawbone that Brent Leo Smith found while he was on foot, his enormous size 12s. There we go. Right, we're in focus. Now what we think we have there, Brent thinks, and I think this is a pretty good theory, is that it's the front end of the bottom jaw of a scrub hare. And they've got those very sharp teeth, as you can see there, and the sharp teeth will be used to eat the various things that they do, mostly, in fact almost exclusively, roots and tubers and little bulbs and things like that. And you can see how effective those teeth would be at eating roots and tubers and other little things that they might manage to dig up. Alright, I think we've also got one more thing to show you here before we go across to something. You can feel the wind coming up in the tent. It's rather eerie in here. Right, I'm going to put the end of a Gardenia falkensii. Let's have a look at it actually like this first. This is the Transvaal Gardenia. Gardenia falkensii produces this fruit, and it's not inedible at all. You can't boil it up and eat it with some butter and creamed spinach, as some people might, with a gem squash. You can't eat it at all. But it is eaten by things like squirrels. And just look at the texture as I focus in on the surface of this incredible, look at that, that's amazing. Now what we also saw coming across the surface of this gourd, or pod if you like, was a mite. Now there are all sorts of different things. This gourd, this fruit, is an ecosystem all unto itself. There will be mites feeding on it. There will be different other kinds of invertebrates that go into it and survive off it. And I don't think that I've ever seen actually anything mammalian eat it, but I'm sure there are a couple of mammals that might like to eat it. But look at the rich surface of this fruit that you wouldn't actually see at all if you didn't have a microscope like the one we're using. And I think that's probably all I have to show you here, except maybe for a beetle carapace. Now this looks like a dung beetle. I'm not sure what happened to this dung beetle. It was caught in raptures, it looks like, doing something. It was rolling something when it met its demise suddenly. The truth of how it died is not apparent to us. Let us examine it like an insect CSI and see if we can't find perhaps what it was. Maybe we can find the tooth marks or beak marks of a beetle, or at least of a bird. Sorry about that, that's Graham Wallington's screensaver. Thankfully it's nothing distasteful. There you can see the amazing detail on the head and protothorax, I think that's called, of this dung beetle. And the big thing to note is the eyes. You can see the two brown eyes there, which I think is fantastic. And you can see where the join is. You can see how well armored he is. as soon as he lifts his head up, that join between the thorax and the head closes, and that's the thorax to the left-hand side of your screen, in case you're slightly disorientated. The front end is to the right-hand side of your screen. And let me just move him back a little bit here. There we go. I don't want you to see what's under my fingernails, so I'll put my finger out of shot. Those front legs are what this dung beetle uses to scrape the dung off the dung piles that it finds. And I'll just try and see if we can't get a slightly different focus on the back ones. Sorry about this, I'm very new to this microscope. There we go, we've got some focus on the back legs there, or the left leg. And it's ideally, you can see how it's hinged perfectly to be collecting dung from a pile of dung. So I'm not sure what happened to this fellow, how he died, or what killed him, but, you know, I suppose beetles are dying all over the place all the time, and we don't know how they die. I think that's probably all I have to show you here. I'm not sure if we're likely to link anywhere else fairly soon. We'll have one more look at perhaps this horn structure. Ah, there we go. Okay, rather than me trying to figure out what on earth that is and where it's come from, let's go across to the magnificent shadow, and thank you for joining us here in the safari tent today, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
It sounds like you've been having an incredible experience under the microscope. Shadow is still in exactly the same place, and I think she's just been spending her day conserving her energy and digesting whatever it was that she ate sometime early this morning or last night. She's definitely not on any kind of mission. I was just wondering what she's been lying here dreaming about. If she's definitely not dreaming about running or hunting. Her paws haven't twitched, she hasn't moved, apart from the regular panting. I know that I was asked a while ago by one of our younger viewers what lions dream about, and I said I was sure they dream about hunting and chasing things. I wonder what Shadow's dreaming about. It's always amazing to think how completely out of it they look. And I mean, she looks so vulnerable and exposed out here. She's not tucked away in any kind of vegetation. She's not hidden in any way. And yet she can go from completely flat and sleeping to wide awake and alert in a blink of an eye, in a split second. And it's on nights like tonight where you can really appreciate the beauty of that colour of that coat. I did look for ways that I could reposition around her, but she's found herself a place where there's lots and lots of fallen trees and logs, and we couldn't really have done it without disturbing her, and I'd rather not do that. So we've left her alone, and we'll just have to wait and see if we can get a closer look of that injury another day, possibly even tomorrow morning, if she starts to head back out into the open. But there's still time, and you never know. It's getting to leopard time of night. It's almost dark, and she might well soon be up and about and wandering around. Gilly, apparently you were watching as Shadow was walking, and you said that you saw her flinch as she sort of put her foot down somewhere around between the paw pads, and you were wondering if that could be a bite mark somewhere between the pads of her paw from all of the mating activity. Absolutely it could. We've seen the way that they respond. I have another possible suggestion as to what it could be. When females turn around and they batter the males and the males batter them back, you've all seen it. You've seen the way that their claws extend. And something that I noticed with Karula and Tingana was At one point when they separated like that, Tingana's claw actually got hooked in Karula, and he had to pull it to get it free. I don't know if it might be a stretch, but it could also be that she strained something in her paw. Maybe her claw got caught and the hook and the pull just hurt the sheath and the tendon of the claw, because that would also cause her to limp a little bit. It probably impacts every time she puts pressure on it. If it is a mating injury, that's probably somewhere along the lines of what happened. Of course, she might have stepped on a thorn. There might just be a really simple answer to it. She might have stepped on a thorn and gone into the sensitive skin between her toes, and it's just taking a while to work its way out, and in the meantime she's favoring it a little bit and not putting too much weight on it. Nothing too serious, I think, any more than Tingana's minor limp was a couple of weeks ago. It seems as though he's very much on the mend, so I think she'll be absolutely fine. She certainly doesn't look as though she's struggling. In fact, looking at her now, she's looking in really, really good condition. Apart from the limp, she's been well fed, she's looking stocky and strong. It's nice to see her thriving as she seems to be, and moving about on her solitary mission in life. I always find it fascinating the way that leopards seem to be almost relieved and more comfortable in themselves when they're just on their own, when they're not having to deal with another male or another female or cubs with them. They just seem perfectly relaxed and content in their own company, as she seems to be at the moment. I do wish I could reposition, but for now we must content ourselves with Shadow's back and that beautiful array of what we now know to be somewhere in the region of 1,000 spots. Looking at her now, apparently, Bill, if you're watching, you mentioned that cheetah have an average of between 2,000 to 3,000 spots. That's interesting. You come across, I will say that sounds likely. Cheetah's spots are solid, and as I said, it depends on whether or not you count the rosette as one spot or several. It gets a bit tricky when you start to talk about that in those terms. But I would not, I'm trying to picture cheetah in my head and think whether they're more heavily spotted. I don't really think so. So we have maybe a bit of confusion. I think possibly the only solution is to be exceptionally patient and to sit and count spots, which I'm not going to do right now. Although she's flat enough for us to be able to. We started our spot conversation this morning on the school drive, and another conversation we started was about the weight of a leopard versus the weight of a hyena. And if we're looking at Shadow, Shadow and Karula are probably somewhere in the region of 45-50 kilos. A hyena, hyena. Well, that was well timed. Lenny, that kind of answers your question that I was about to get to. But Shadow's just there. She hasn't moved away too. Gosh, that happened fast. That was incredible. She's just hissing at it, thoroughly disgruntled, totally unimpressed with life. The hyena is going to, he stopped and he sniffed just where she was lying. He's looking at her now. There he is. He just had a bit of a sniff around where she was. That was phenomenal. Oops, sorry, I'm tangled. And off he goes. Well done. Well done, Shadow. Right, a couple of things that moment just proved. First of all, what I was saying earlier about the speed at which leopards go from lying down to moving, but actually that hyena was really, really close before she realized, or before either of us realized that that hyena was there, myself or Shadow. That was amazing. All right, Lenny, we were discussing weights of leopards, and your question was going to be what my opinion is as to a clash between a hyena and a leopard, where the leopards would avoid confrontation with hyena to avoid risk of injury. Now, you were saying that you've seen a leopard take on a big warthog and surely could hold their own against a hyena. Yes, leopards can hold their own. Sorry, I'm just going to look where she's looking. Another hyena. She spotted another one. It's one of the cubs, one of the older cubs. Amazing. Now this could be interesting because this is a tiny cub. Oh yes, it's not even going to think about challenging Shadow. Wow, that was quite incredible. Okay, so there's two hyena, one of whom we know fairly well from wandering around the den site. And they're obviously out and about looking for foraging opportunities. Hello, Shadow. Yes, let me try and tilt that away from you. I'm still keeping an eye out for her as well, just to make sure that if there are any others in the vicinity, we're aware of where they are. Lenny, for the most part, a leopard is going to avoid a confrontation, especially a female leopard, because they are so much smaller than the males are. So a female like Shadow just dashed away from that hyena immediately. It's not worth the injury, it's not worth the fight. The hyena, with his natural curiosity and also advantage in terms of weight, might have gone and picked a fight with her. That's what he was going to do. He was going to investigate her, or she was going to go investigate her. Leopards can, however, be incredibly strong, incredibly fast, and a very dangerous enemy. It's not a battle to be easily fought and easily won on the hyena's part, and particularly if you're talking about a battle between a male. Male leopards do have essentially double the weight of a female. Now, the reason that a leopard might risk attacking a big warthog is because they are big and strong, and they might really have that ability to tackle, and might be desperate and might be hungry, and it's worth the risk then. And it also depends on where you see it. Now, the same applies. For the most part, hyena here in this area will avoid confrontation for the most part with lions. We don't see it every day, we see it every now and again, and only really when the hyenas have the advantage of numbers. And that's because there's so much for them to scavenge that they don't need to risk that injury. But in a different area, I know that leopards might be more keen to challenge hyenas, fight back to protect their carcasses if there's not as much food available to them. So it all depends on the circumstances of the individual leopard as well. The other thing I was going to mention has gone completely out of my head. I had a train of thought there. Hold on one moment. My train of thought definitely hasn't come back to me, but suffice to say that for the most part, confrontation avoidance is the way forward for almost all of the predators except for lions, which will essentially try to throw their weight around at any other carnivore. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. I have seen the most incredible footage and pictures of Kunuma attacking a hyena, and that is a young male leopard for you, pushing the boundaries a little bit. I think, if I remember what I was told correctly, he was trying to protect a kill that he'd made, and he took on a hyena only to realize that actually he didn't think this was such a good idea and shot up a tree to hide away. Now, for the most part, a leopard and a hyena, a leopard is so much faster and more agile, and that hyena didn't really make any effort in terms of chasing after Shadow, just left her be. shame, poor Shadow. And we have some wonderful news for a viewer who could well be sitting in exactly the same position that we are now. Well, probably not in exactly the same place. But Bill, apparently you are coming to Arathusa on Monday. Today is Friday. Today is Friday, so that's in 3 days' time. That's wonderful news, Bill. I hope you enjoy every moment of it. And I look forward to seeing you either out on the vehicles or around and about. That is very exciting news, and you could well be seeing Shadow as she does her big loop around here and towards Simbambili and then back down to Arathusa. Oh, Shadow, that was not what you were expecting with your evening. I actually cannot believe how close that was to a serious confrontation. That hyena was almost on top of her before she noticed it and dashed away. I'm so glad that she did. Also, it just goes to show that the speed at which she moved and went from upright to ducking behind our vehicle, that paw is not going to be, whatever's wrong with it, it's not going to be of any kind of a significant injury to her. It's definitely been a very special evening spent with Shadow, and I really enjoyed it. I'm happy to see that she escaped from the hyena alive and well. Right, now I'm going to be saying goodbye and thank you for absolutely everyone. So let's start going through the list, shall we? From Scott and, oh, who was on camera? Tibbs. And thank you to Brian as well. Thank you from James in the tent and his microscope, as well as Andrew, who was flying the drone, and of course Brent and Jandre, who were wandering through the bush and actually helped us find this incredible sighting, and right down to the wonderful ladies in FC who've been accompanying us, and especially to Tara for her fantastically entertaining directing this afternoon. I have thoroughly enjoyed every minute of it. It's been incredible. It's just been such a fun experience with all the different sort of aspects of the bush experience that we can share with you all. Well, ladies and gentlemen, a big thank you most of all to you for joining us. Have a wonderful day wherever you are in the world, and we will catch you tomorrow morning for the sunrise safari. Goodbye for now.